Carson Area Metropolitan Planning Organization to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Schutte,
Here.
Member Dodson, Member Erb, Member Henderson. Is he not calling? Member Maloney,
Here.
Member Novak,
Here.
ex officio Member Rosenberg.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. We're now on to agenda item number 3, which is our public comment period. Is there any public comment for today's? Okay, then we're going to move on to agenda item number 4, which is approval of our minutes of December 14th, 2022. Did any member have a correction? If not, I'll accept a motion for approval, please.
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous with the motion by Member Maloney and a second by Vice Chair Schutte. We're now going to move on to agenda item 5A, which is the annual election of our chairman and chairperson. It's up to the board on decision. I don't have any problem continuing, but I'm sure Ms. Schutte, you're okay too? What? In or out? Yeah.
I'm fine. I was just going through and reading how it says an aspirational goal within Carson City's policies and procedures for boards, committees, and commission encourages leadership to rotate regularly. Although it also says the chair should only serve 2 years, and I know you've served 1 year, so I would like open it to, I'm okay either way, but want to be mindful of that goal.
Aspirational goals.
So is there anyone who, with your permission,
The floor.
anyone who would be interested in chairing?
could share. If, everybody agrees, but I think the way things have been going is fine too
Okay.
with me.
Would you perhaps be interested in being vice chair? If, or, I don't know, or, I'm going to turn it over, but I just think it's always important to follow aspirational goals. But that said, I move to appoint Lori Bagwell as chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Now we'll go on to the vice chair. Again, it's open for, is somebody? I'm going to be honest with all of you because I think it's important, and I think the aspirational goal is setting up all boards and commissions, not particular to this one. So I'm not saying that the other counties can't be chairs or any other such thing, or vice chairs. It's easier because staff is directly already communicating with us on a regular basis. It turns out that I think it's wise that the chair be somebody that directly works with staff. It doesn't make it required or any other such thing. And certainly vice chair is a fill-in, so I don't think it's as necessary. So any of you would do a fine job, I am convinced.
And I'm comfortable staying as well as vice chair, and so I just wanted to put that on the record. But Mr. Novak, if it's something that you would be interested in, that is
Yeah,
groovy as well.
Vice chair might be worth a try.
Okay.
Good.
Then I move to appoint Greg Novak as vice chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31st, 2023.
I would second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to appoint Greg Novak as the vice chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31, 2023. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. Okay, we're
Madam
now,
Chair?
yes? Oh, is Wes
Yeah,
on now?
Yeah, I've joined. My computer decided to update right before the meeting, but I'm on now.
Please let the record reflect that Mr. Henderson has joined the meeting. Thank you. Were you there for that last item that should be marked a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let the record reflect he was in for the vote. Okay, we are now on to agenda item 5B, which is discussion and possible action regarding an interlocal agreement with Douglas County for development, operation, maintenance, and updating of the CAMPO travel demand model. Please let the record reflect for everyone that is listening or in the audience. We are discussing the item as submitted with late material so that everyone knows any motions or votes or anything will be based on the late material. I also, no, not anymore. Member, sorry, Shooty, please, may I have your disclosure?
Yes. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. My nephew is Chris Martinovich, who is employed by Carson City and will be presenting this item. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his service with the city, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other resident of Carson City. NRS 281A.420 only requires abstention in clear cases, and the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position would not be impacted by familial relationship. Therefore, I do not have a disqualifying conflict and will be voting on this matter.
Thank you so much. Mr. Martinovich, do you want to give us a highlight?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this item is for an interlocal agreement between CAMPO and Douglas County for an update or incorporation or combination of incorporating Douglas County's travel demand model in with CAMPO's travel demand model. CAMPO identified through its Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP, the need to update its travel demand model as part of that document. And as part of that, Douglas County requested that we take over their portion or their own separate travel demand model. They have been operating a model for a number of years, and due to a variety of resources, constraints and funding constraints and things like that, it's more efficient to have a travel demand model operated by CAMPO for a variety of reasons. It's beneficial for Douglas County as it takes sort of that burden off of them, and it's beneficial for CAMPO because it provides us more of a regional picture with a greater component of one of our partner agencies. This update and their travel demand model only incorporates the valley portion of Douglas County. It does not include the area up at Tahoe, as that's covered by the TRPA through that travel demand model separately in that MPO. This item really includes two components. The first component for $66,095 is for that initial development, that initial combination development of the travel demand model, a one-time cost, if you will. And the second component for $20,000 not to exceed amount is for ongoing requests through a task authorization form or a TOA form. And this gives Douglas County the opportunity to request CAMPO make changes to the roadway network, new developments, land use changes. And it also allows Douglas County to request in a model scenario running. If a new development's coming, they can ask CAMPO through our consultant support to run those analysis on behalf of them. So variety of factors there, and that allows them to do that periodically upon request. There is late material. I appreciate that was mentioned. The couple of edits there were noted in the late material. So there's a red line version, well, technically blue lined, and then a clean version as well. So happy to answer questions.
Just, has Douglas County already approved based on the late material?
Douglas County provided the late material, so that was the reason for the late material, was some last minute back and forth. So in coordination with them, we should be good to go forward with this material, yes.
Okay. Is there any other questions, any comments? Member Schutte?
A quick question regarding the requests. Will there be like a window of opportunity for requests, or can requests come in any time? I mean, I just think about being able to, if several can be looked into and information can be given at the same time, it might be more cost effective or time effective, more importantly. So just wondering about that.
We did briefly consider that. I think given the time it takes to develop the model, the 12-month period, which we'll hear about in item 5C, there isn't a lot of window left in this term of the agreement. I think we want to see how this works, and if we need to make modifications to the form, we want to make modifications to the dollar amount going forward. I think there's opportunity there, but we don't specifically in this agreement have a time frame per se. But I understand, and I hear and appreciate those comments.
Mr. Novak, did you have a comment?
Yeah,
Question?
just in general, I'm glad that you're doing this task and tying Douglas and Carson closer together, and I'm sure there'll be other uses for this data that everybody will be sharing. I'm definitely supporting it.
Mr.
Erb. John Erb for the record. I want to first thank Chris for spearheading this as far as getting the RFQ out and getting the process rolling. This was first discussed years ago back with Patrick, and funding and the existing models, the timing of everything just didn't work out. So finally, over the years, and it was discussed with Lucia as well, finally things aligned up, and it's going to be a good model to have a regional model that combines both Carson City and Douglas County with the way the development's growing more closer to the Carson City borders and everything. So I'm looking forward to proceeding with this, and once it's approved here, it'll be going to our board for approval. So thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else? Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the agreement as presented in late material.
I would like to move to accept this proposal as presented, including the late material.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Wes, was that an aye?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 5C, which is discussion and possible action regarding contract 233-00193 for Wood Rogers to perform the professional services for the Campo and Douglas County travel demand that we just completed our discussion on. Kelly, are you going to give us just some highlights on this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. Travel demand models are essential tools that use socioeconomic and roadway network data to project changes in future traffic lengths and volumes. Results from travel demand model scenarios inform transportation planning. The project consists of updating the Campo travel demand model and incorporating portions of Douglas County outside of the Campo region into the model. A request for qualifications was published on September 8th, 2022, and Campo received 4 proposals. The Review and Selection Committee selected Wood Rogers to recommend to Campo. And through the contract, Wood Rogers with Campo and Douglas County will coordinate with partner agencies and neighboring models for consistency. Douglas County will be incorporated into the travel demand model, but the travel demand model will also have the capability of examining each county individually. We will update the transportation analysis zones, which are subdivisions of counties containing land use, socioeconomic, and transportation network data. We're going to update the base year to 2022, while also maintaining model scenarios for 2030 and 2050, consistent with Regional Transportation Plan. We plan to update and calibrate the model. And Wood Rogers will be creating an OpenGIS interface tool with training for Campo staff to use internally. The project's not to exceed amount of $219,920 includes $113,825 for updating the Campo model, $66,995 for the development of the Douglas County model, and up to $40,000 for ongoing periodic operation maintenance and updates as requested by Campo or Douglas County. The project is anticipated to take approximately 12 months. And the Campo travel demand model update, like the transportation manager, Chris Martinovich, said earlier, was planned within the UPWP Task 4 Transportation Performance Management section. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Does any member have a question? Mr. Dotson?
Kelly, I was interested in, is any of the travel demand modeling costs eligible for federal funding?
The cost for completing the travel demand model is part of our Unified Planning Work Program, which is funded through the Nevada Department of Transportation. So it's a 95% federal fund, 5% local match.
With that understanding, is the portion that Douglas County contributing to this also eligible for that amount?
It would be used as part of the income that Campo would receive, so we could use it as part of the match. Yes?
Eligible.
If you look on page 1 of 21 or packet page 25, we always indicate on there's the line, 4th one down, whether or not it's got federal dollars in it, and that'll help you know how we're applying the particular dollars. But yes, we're taking advantage of participation on this one. Okay. Does anyone else? Member Vice Chair Novak?
Oh, yeah, I got a new title.
I'll try. It'll take me maybe more than one meeting, but I'll get there.
Kelly, where do we stand now on the census data? I And I've asked you that from time to time. I think the intent is to use it. Well, will you be able to? Is it coming in quick enough?
Yeah, I think the transportation manager is going to mention this later in the manager's report. But the U.S. Census just came out right before New Year's with updated urban area data. They have a list. They do not have geographic boundaries or maps yet for us to reference. We will be following this very closely. There are updated census data, population data for each of these urban areas. So we'll be following that.
Because I think the intent of the contract is to use the latest data. And if you need to delay something to get the census data, please do.
And exactly. And as we talked about with the Transportation Network Monitoring Report, there have been updates to census tracts since the 2020 census as well. Those will inform the changes and the updates that we make to the transportation analysis zones as well. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that Brian Gant, the project manager, is also here as well to support, and so I wanted to recognize that as well.
And I also saw a task in there about a truck model or trying to track trucks a little bit. And I think that's a critical addition to the overall program, since we do have freight corridors, and with the road closed, I'm sure the freight's not moving, or it's taking the long way around to get wherever it's trying to get. So,
We're noticing it on shelves, right? It's like,
Right.
uh-oh. Yeah.
good.
The weather could stop for a little while and
And
let
the
some
last
trucks
item,
through.
this whole model is the basis for lots of regional planning and also project level analysis, right? So it feeds into what NDOT does, and we have one set of numbers coming out at the far end, right?
Ms.
Yeah,
Rosenberg?
I'll add, I was debating whether to make a comment on the prior item or this one. It's tremendously helpful, again, for that partnership between areas, because we do use whatever the local model is. We also have a statewide model. Our statewide model is far less detailed than the local and regional models. So we do use that in project prioritization as well as project design. So it's tremendously helpful to have the latest and greatest and preferably cooperative models so that they all kind of match. And I'm also hopeful that that means, because the boundary between the TRPA model and the Douglas County portion of this model, I'm assuming there's going to be some coordination there on making the externals kind of match at that level.
Could work out.
Could.
Could be.
There's only a couple points.
I serve on
so
that
hopefully,
committee too.
hopefully along those corridors, we can get the numbers pretty close.
Okay.
So you have your marching orders.
Yeah, pretty much, huh? I thought, oh, I know what I'm doing at TDD in a couple of weeks. No, okay. Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, is there any public comment on agenda item 5C? Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a motion. Member Schutte?
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion by Member Schutte and a second by Vice Chair Novak. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move to agenda item 5D, discussion and possible action regarding the federal fiscal year 23 through 25 Title VI program for CAMPO and Jump Around Carson Jack Transit System. Alex, take us through this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jump Around Carson Transit and CAMPO receive federal funding through various programs to help operate their transit system. And as a condition of that funding, CAMPO must maintain a Title VI program that is in compliance with U.S. Department of Transportation's regulations. CAMPO is committed to ensuring that no group of persons is discriminated against or excluded from participation with Jack Transit, and ensures that their Title VI plan fulfills all of the U.S. DOT requirements. At the January 2020 CAMPO meeting, this board approved the federal fiscal year 2020 through 2022 Title VI program. Staff has brought an updated Title VI program today for approval that would run from federal fiscal year 2023 through 2025. The updated Title VI plan includes some changes to the language assistance plan and also updates the service availability measure with current available dwelling unit data. With that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Does any member have a question? Okay, do I have any public comment on this item? Other than, boy, how fast does this time go that we're here again, right? It's unbelievable. Seeing no public comment, then I will accept a motion. Member Dotson?
I move to approve the federal fiscal year 2023-2025 Title VI program.
Do I have a second? Member Novak, thank you for this, or Vice Chair Novak, thank you for the second. All those in,
Herb.
Oh.
I think it was member Herb.
oh, I saw that. Everybody's hitting things at the same time. Okay, we'll go with Member Erb. Thank you so much. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Wes, that was an aye?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 6, which is our non-action items. May I have the Transportation Manager's report, Mr. Martinovich?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to. So the first thing I want to mention, and if Sandra wants to dive in a little bit more I'll turn it over to her in a second, but the first thing I want to mention is regards to the completion of the sustainable funding report was released and provided to the legislature. It's available on nvtransportationfuture.org if you'd like to see that full report. It's a lengthy report. There's some good, interesting graphics in there, so I would encourage those interested to visit that website and get that information. I'm happy to provide any updates if the board would like any in the future. Other CAMPO items I'll touch on. First of all is we're working with NDOT and Douglas County on a corridor study, an update to a corridor study for the US 395 corridor, the Southern Sierra Corridor Study, I believe they're going to call it, beginning at the interchange of I-580, US 395, US 50, and Carson Street, and extending south all the way down into through Douglas County to the California state line. So we're just kicking off that with working with NDOT's planning division to update that and provide some recommendations. So CAMPO and Douglas County are integrally involved along with NDOT in that. Similarly, we're working with NDOT to develop a scope for a corridor study of the US 50 corridor from the I-580 interchange at US 50 in downtown Carson by Gold Dust West and Lampa and out through US 50 corridor into the Mount House area. We're working with them to execute an agreement. That study would be led by CAMPO, whereas the US 395 one would be led by NDOT. So working on getting those agreements and those studies kicked off. So look for those in the coming months and coming years as well. Kelly mentioned it earlier. I appreciate her bringing that up, but in regards to the U.S. Census released their list of urban areas, it's a summary of what urban areas have changed, and ones that have reduced below the MPO threshold, those that have grown above the different thresholds, 50,000, 200,000, a million, as well as changes to the populations of those urban areas. We are waiting for the maps to be released. Right now it's just a list. And so as we expected, Carson City and the surrounding area still remains an MPO, but we're waiting to see the boundaries, if they change the Lyon County boundary or the Douglas County boundary. We're waiting to get those maps to see if and how CAMPO's boundaries may change, and we would obviously discuss that at this board going forward when those maps are released. There is likely a new MPO being formed in Nevada at some point in the future down in the Bullhead City, Laughlin area. So something to consider as we move forward long term. So I'm going to turn it over. Well, before I do that, I got one other item here for next month. We do have a transportation improvement plan we'll be bringing forward for adoption. We've been working back and forth with NDOT and our partner agencies on that, and we were hoping to bring it to this meeting, but there's just some additional back and forth we wanted to clean up before we brought that to the board. So certainly anticipate that going forward in February. Sandra, do you have anything you wanted to touch on? I got one more item, but.
I think you covered those items well. I can cover some other items during the next portion.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to mention, it's sort of a melancholy mention, is that Alex Cruz and Marquise Williams, this is their last meeting with CAMPO. In fact, they'll be leaving us at the end of this week. They'll be moving on to our sister agency up in RTC Washoe. And so I wish them well, and I hope that they continue to grow and do good. This one's particularly painful, not only because we're losing two people at the same time, but we're losing a lot of expertise. And I'm hopeful that we'll find somebody to kind of keep it going and keep us moving forward, and that we're able to, be competitive going forward for positions like theirs. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you, Alex, and thank you, Marquise.
Can I vote no?
Yeah. Might not have any weight, but I think we could do it, yeah.
We told the RTC they weren't allowed to take any more NDOT employees, so they've moved on to others. I'm sorry, Chris.
Good. Will there be any changes on that RTC intercity bus from? We'll see.
Do we have any inside deals? Yeah.
See where it goes. Chris, before I forget, you mentioned that 395 corridor study. Does that include the end of the freeway that's not complete yet? Or we're still looking at the scope?
I think that's where it's going to start. How
Okay, so-
detailed they get there, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, that is the starting point. So my assumption, we have an RFA out right now, so I think that will be part of the, negotiations when we select a consultant. But my assumption is yes, unless we're moving that faster through the design process. So either way, that the analysis of that interchange will be moving forward.
Good, because that congestion point's not going away until some other roads are built. All right, thank you.
Okay. Do you have further communication? No? Does any members of CAMPO, did you want to start, Sandra, with?
Yeah,
comments?
I have a couple of items. So we had our board meeting this Monday. We welcomed 3 new board members. 2 of them were present, 1 was not. So for those of you who don't know, our board includes the governor, lieutenant governor, and controller, which have all changed folks now. So we had a new board, partially new board. At that board meeting, a new director was appointed. Tracy Larkin-Thomason will be returning to NDOT to lead the agency starting next Tuesday, January 17th. So she had, I think, 34 years with NDOT before retiring and going to work at ITS America in DC for a couple years. So she'll be coming back. So it's someone who knows the department and knows us. So we're hoping that there's not too much disruption there. A lot of the conversation at the board and we anticipate at the legislature includes, and an executive order that was issued last week includes looking at vacancy rates at the state. It's for a number of reasons, but pay is one of those things. So we're looking forward to the legislative session to see if state employees get a pay raise. We're under the impression that the prior governor put it in his budget and the new governor has a raise as well. We don't know how much or any details on that. So with that, I just want to provide some kudos to our maintenance teams who have been out there in this weather and just a tremendous response given that we have a more than 50% vacancy rate in most of our maintenance districts. So in some cases, 75% or more. So people are working around the clock trying to keep the road safe. So if not everything is cleared in the time you would like, please provide some patience. They're doing really a phenomenal job given the vacancy rates we have right now. So we're looking forward to the legislature. We don't have a large number of bills. We have one operational related bill, or I think it's a bill now. We're going to be watching a number of them. I think we already have 100 and something BDRs on our watch list. In particular, seeing what happens with the recommendations from the advisory working group on sustainable transportation funding. The governor's made a pledge for no new taxes, and to so we'll see how that goes through that legislative process with the report that was done. As Chris mentioned, that report is available for anyone's viewing, and our team is happy to answer any questions on the analysis that was done. And finally, thank you for the reminder on the census data. I have not had a chance to take a look at that list, but now I know that the details aren't there yet. So we'll certainly be looking at that in detail, as it will affect some of the funding distributions with a new MPO, although we think it's fairly minor because the majority of the population of the potential new MPO is actually in Arizona. So yeah, I think that's it.
Okay,
Happy to
Sandra,
take any
a
questions.
question. I think I also heard the governor wanted to do away with telework at some point.
Mhm.
So
By
if
July.
state employees are coming to town, we're going to get more traffic, but I heard like July 1st or.
So yeah, the executive order that was signed on Friday includes 2 parts. One asking the Department of Human Resource Management to look at the reasons for the high vacancy rate and the speed of which of how we fill vacancies, which is part of the issue. The other part of it is requiring, I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but basically encouraging in-office or requiring full-time in-office work for state employees. We are hopeful to take a look at that and working with the part one and part two together. We think there's some conversations to be had about retention and flexibility. So, but all state agencies are currently planning to have employees back in the offices by July 1st.
Does any other?
No comment.
Yeah, does any other member have anything to report or share? And Ms. Maloney?
Thank you. I just follow up on both Sandra and Chris's comment on the sustainable funding report. I know Chris was an active participant in those meetings representing CAMPO. I would just suggest, of course, at Chris's discretion, but it may be beneficial to distribute that report on CAMPO's website and maybe to your email stakeholder list. The voters responded really positively to the diesel tax in November in Carson City. And I think that's in response to all the information, all the great information you put out. And so that might be something you might want to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Can you tell us briefly what new funding sources are identified in that report? How about you just cut to the chase and tell us
Sure, I'd have
what's being recommended
You have-
overall in the report?
I have the recommendations section here. So recommendation 1 is that Nevada should institute a mileage-based charge to capture road usage by zero-emission vehicles while setting the stage for future transition away from gas tax. Recommendation 2 is to indicates that because revenue from the gas tax is declining as vehicles become more fuel efficient and operate on electricity or other alternative vehicles, the Nevada legislature should replace the fuel tax with a per mile road user charge for all new vehicles by 2035. Recommendation 3 has multiple parts, but in essence, it says to address the current backlog of transportation projects for the state, additional revenue should be generated by increasing the uniform rate of state fuel excise taxes, indexing the portion of state and federal fuel taxes not already indexed outside of Clark and Washoe County to keep pace with construction costs over time, enabling county commissioners to enact inflation adjustments to the county's portion of the fuel taxes, increasing vehicle registration fees to provide modest revenue for highway purposes, and directing 100% of the state portion of the government services tax to the state highway fund. That's recommendation 3.
Can you read that one again? Did that say take our money away and give it to
It
the
was to
state?
redirect the state's portion of the government services tax to the state highway fund instead of where it gets distributed to a variety of funds. State's portion.
Redirect the state's money to a
State's
particular
money.
fund.
Correct.
Yeah, I was like, we're gonna
Not-
vote.
not the
Yeah,
locals.
okay.
And then alternative, recommendation 4 was to, in collaboration with public agencies, NDOT MPOs, and local governments, should conduct assessments of their current and projected transportation projects and funding gaps and regularly share that information with elected officials, stakeholders, and the public. And I think recommendation 5, which ultimately didn't pass, wasn't related to land use, but that one did not pass out of the committee.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, status reports? Anything? Okay, then we're on final public comment. Do we have any final public comment? This is way too easy. Okay, with that, then we are adjourned. And a quarter after, we will do RTC. Thank you. Regional Transportation Commission to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Schudy, Commissioner Dotson,
Here.
Commissioner Maloney,
Here.
Commissioner Novak. No quorum's present.
Thank you so much. We're now on to agenda item 3, which is our public comment. Do I have any public comment for the RTC? Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 4, which is approval of our minutes of December 14th, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to read? Any corrections? I'll accept a motion, please.
I move to approve the minutes of December 14th, 2022.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. We're now going to move on to agenda item 5A, which is, once again, we have to do elections of a chair and a vice chair. In this case, though, the chair does have to be a member of the Board of Supervisors. And again, I'm willing to continue and the pleasure too, up to what Ms. Schudy would like to do.
I move to appoint Lori Bagwell as chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. The vice chairman is an open position, is not required to be a member of the Board of Supervisors, but certainly may be. So the pleasure on the vice chair? Mr. Dotson?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Lisa Schudy as the vice chair.
Appoint?
Excuse me.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Lisa Schudy as the vice chairperson for a one-year term ending December 31, 2023. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect a unanimous decision. Phew, and I don't have to come up with any different titles. I like it. Okay. We're now going to move on to agenda item 5B, which is discussion and possible action regarding contract 233-00195 for Parametrics, Inc. to assist in the development of the Douglas County Safe Routes to School Master Plan as part of the Western Nevada Safe Routes to School for a not to exceed $365,088. Mr. Boehmer, you're going to take us through this item?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Scott Bohemier, the Transportation Planner, Western Nevada Safe Routes to School Program Coordinator. With the board's approval, the Western Nevada Safe Routes to School Program, in partnership with Parametrics, in partnership with Parametrics, will embark on an effort to improve the health and safety of the Douglas County students by encouraging active transportation through outreach and the development of a Safe Routes to School master plan. The plan will identify and prioritize both infrastructure and non-infrastructure recommendations for up to 11 schools in Douglas County within a 2-mile radius of each school. The goals of the plan are to increase safety for students while walking, biking, and rolling, to increase the number of students walking, biking, and rolling, to improve the health of the students by encouraging physical activity, and to protect and preserve our fragile environment by reducing vehicle miles traveled. The plan will adhere to the 6 E's of the National Safe Routes to School program. These 6 E's are engineering, education, engagement, encouragement, equity, and evaluation. So one of the beginning steps is to collect data and review the existing conditions. Targeted data elements include sidewalk connectivity based on existing data sets, using aerial photo analysis and field visits to verify. Also, we'll look at rural connectivity and bus stop safety, bicycle facility locations and types, and the plan will look at current safety education and bicycle safety programs. School pickup zones and drop-off zones, parent parking locations and circulation patterns will be looked at. And also crash history will be analyzed to identify any hotspots. Community engagement will be the cornerstone of the planning process. Public workshops will be held to include presentations defining the Safe Routes to School program and why it is important. Workshops will also include an overview of existing infrastructure as well as education and awareness initiatives that can be used to make active transportation safer and more convenient. At each public meeting, attendees can identify safety concerns at particular locations along common routes in the school walk zones and offer their suggestions through interactive maps and drawing exercises. The plan will include a prioritized list of projects that aim to improve safety and expand multimodal connectivity and address ADA accessibility. The cost effectiveness of projects will be assessed in this part of the evaluation, and the recommendations will be prioritized and include implementation timeframes such as short, mid, and long term. As an example, as on your screen, the Carson City plan used Tier 1, 2, and 3 projects. Tier 1 projects included low-cost projects that had an immediate benefit and can be implemented rapidly. Tier 2 or core projects focus on improvements that can be implemented in a 20-year timeframe. And the Tier 3 or aspirational projects are larger projects that can be implemented when fiscally and operationally appropriate. While building this plan, Douglas County will supply their input on how they would like to prioritize and implement their projects that are recommended. Two different types of projects will be identified in the plan. The first is engineering recommendations, which will go through the prioritization process and be assigned to the implementation plan, include cost estimates. A couple examples of these engineering projects are intersection enhancements, bike lane improvements, and sidewalk gap closures. Based on public comment, along with consultant and staff expertise, a series of recommendations will be made for each school during the prioritization process. The other recommendations will be programmatic recommendations. These are non-infrastructure projects that will be categorized using the 6 E's that I spoke of earlier. The programmatic recommendations on the screen are examples from the Carson City Safe Routes Plan, and the programmatic recommendations for the Douglas Plan will follow these guidelines, but will be tailored to the wants and needs of the Douglas County schools. Included in the plan will be a design toolbox. The designs featured in this toolbox work to promote and increase pedestrian and bicycle comfort levels, particularly among our students. The toolbox presents current engineering design resources and approaches to implement bicycle and pedestrian safety enhancements. The benefits of the plan are numerous, but these are just a few that we've experienced with our Carson City plan. Team buy-in, it helps us set our priorities, focuses resources to promote the Dig Once approach, improves accountability, helps improve funding opportunities, helps achieve infrastructure goals. And these benefits are just a small example of the successes that the plans can bring to the communities, citizens, schools, and especially our students. We're confident that the Douglas Plan will set them up for these same type of successes. And that's about it. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Does any member have a question?
Yeah. Scott,
Mr.
I've got one. It looks very comprehensive, but I did not see any specific mention other than crash history data of input from law enforcement.
Yes, law enforcement will be included. We'll have all the stakeholders, Douglas County School District, law enforcement, any crossing guards they have, but yes, law enforcement will
Sheriff's office or
definitely,
whatever?
yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so will you help me just a little bit for clarification on the record? If I were to look at packet page 42, where it talks about the deliverable for presentations, if you look almost at the bottom, 2 presentations to the Douglas County School Board and 1 for the RTC Board. For the record, the RTC is not us, RTC, that's the Douglas County
Correct.
RTC.
That will be
I
the
just
Douglas
wanted
County.
to clarify for the record for everyone to recognize, certainly this great work is not going to come to this RTC because we would have no enforcement or.
Correct. No, I
well,
apologize for
literally,
that.
we put it on the shelf.
Yeah, it's
because
definitely
we're not
set
gonna
up
put
to
any
for the
dollars to it.
Douglas County RTC Board.
And then I just also, for the record, want to indicate while this is a contract that we are implementing because Safe Routes to School is within our jurisdiction with the federal dollars and all of that, that everything that is a city responsibility here is really coming via the interlocal that we passed with Douglas County. So I just want the record to clarify that the city has no ability to allow a consultant into private property in Douglas County. That's not within our authority, but it is gained via the interlocal with Douglas County that's requesting and paying for the match portion of this.
Yes.
So I
correct.
just want to clarify for the record, because it's a little bit unique for this RTC to be doing a Douglas County contract, but kind of like our health department, there are times in which we actually control programmatically issues across county lines. So I just wanted to put that on the record that
Right.
Douglas County is actually cooperating and requested this work
Yes.
to be done.
Yeah, we've had similar things come up at previous meetings. Why is it an RTC item and not a CAMPO item? I think, you know,
Exactly,
you've
because
explained
it's really more fitting in the thought process to be CAMPO, to cross jurisdictions. But in this case, how is it going, being the Safe Routes to School?
It's going really good.
There
Yeah,
you
We're making
go.
great progress and things are moving forward in a really good pace. So,
Wonderful. So I just wanted to put that on the record in case there was any questions. So do we have any, Lucia, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Oh, no, that's okay.
a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two brief comments. One, this was the first time I had seen the new Safe Routes to School logo. I think it's darling.
Oh,
I
thank
don't know
you.
if that was you or
Yeah,
Kelly,
that
whoever.
was
but
me.
It's great. Nice work. And then the second thing was, and it's wonderful to see Amy Cummings here, and really exciting that Parametrics was selected. I understand that it's a different consultant than the one that did the Carson City plan. I guess I would suggest or ask if there's any new tools or techniques that come out of the Douglas County planning process that staff maybe note those down and bring them back as ideas for Carson City in the future.
oh, sure. Thank you. That's a great comment.
Ms. Schutte?
Yeah, and I would just like to say, I love this. This is cooperation at its best, and how the different ideas, and really what Lucia just alluded to, the ideas that come out of it can benefit Carson and vice versa. So in terms of the, now I lost the page. Just talking about future projects and all, I know that cost is always an issue. Something that came to mind is, I think with good public participation, some of the costs can actually be reduced. It makes me think of like a neighborhood group walk, ride, and roll type thing. And I know that it's done in other communities. Different people take turns and kind of a whole group of kiddos.
Yeah, and that's one of the
to
big things
school.
we're looking at now is those different programs like walking school buses and
Right.
bike trains and all those kind of things that we can get going in those communities and, you know, really bring the community into the program with us.
Kids love it, and it meets the objective of reducing traffic flow around schools, which is safer. So
Yeah,
thanks for your
we've got a whole bunch of good ideas, so hopefully I'll bring them back to you and let you know.
awesome things.
Look forward to it. Anybody else? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a motion. Vice Chair Schutte.
Okay, I move to approve the contract as presented.
Okay. Commissioner Novak, thank you for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to agenda item 5C, which is discussion and possible action regarding a determination that RMAC Construction is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for our improvements to Roop Street between Fifth Street and Messer Street for $1,000,000, not to exceed amount of $1,404,836.68, which includes the 10% contingency. You're not leaving, are you? You heard that? It's on the record. I got somebody to commit. Okay, just thought we'd take our opportunity while we could. Okay, Brian, you want to take us through this?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Brian Byrne, Transportation Engineer. This is the Root Street project. That will include pavement rehabilitation and utility improvements from Fifth Street to Mustard Street. And this would award RMAC to complete the project for not to exceed amount as previously mentioned. If there's any questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Does any member have a question on this? Commissioner Dotson?
Brian, I was looking at the difference between the low bidder and
think we
second low bidder and the rest. And just wondering, I know it's tough to dive into these individual line items and ascertain where those differences come from, but looks like a couple areas, the traffic control and it looked like the sanitary sewer prices were appreciably lower with their bid. Just wondering if, do you have any discussions with that contractor, you know, to see if there was anything that they missed at all? Or do you have concerns over the large differences in the bids?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and we did discuss with our construction staff on those line items and if there was any concerns. Given the bid documents and plans and specifications, our team feels that confident in the documentation that we have to not provide any additional risk per se of another project based off of the documents we have.
That on the traffic control, in your limitations of operations, will that allow the complete closure of that section of road?
Yeah, I believe a complete closure is on the table for certain construction items for periods of time.
Okay.
Commissioner Novak, do you have a question?
Yeah, I guess following up to that, Jim and I are kind of on the same wavelength here. So there's a detour that has been specified, or is it up to the contractor to supply something? Because if you're closing that street, where's the traffic going to go?
Yeah, the contractor will provide that traffic control for this. I believe for the full closure, they're looking to detour along Little Lane. I think that was a preliminary thought process. It won't be for the entire duration of the project, just more when they're going through to redo the road.
What works out?
Yeah. It's an interesting contract, to say the least. I think all of us, when we, looked at the bid amounts, we all had the same rationale or thought process here because having a project come to its completion is the objective. And so one of the other things for me was asking staff if we had enough history with RMAC to believe that they will carry through with their bid. And that's right, that they won't halfway through the project leave us. And so do we have experience with this contractor to indicate that it is not just the lowest, but that it's actually a responsive bid? And I think that's the nutshell here, is that we believe the bid is responsive, and therefore, in your judgment, this board should be approving it. That's, and you believe it's responsive.
Staff have found the bid to be responsive, yes.
So, okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I bring it back to the board for motion.
I'll move to award the contract as presented.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded to award the contract as presented. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. Thank you. We're now on to agenda item 5D, which is discussion and possible action regarding our highway agreement between Carson City Regional Transportation Commission and NDOT to partially fund pedestrian, bicycle, and roadway improvements near Carson Middle School in Bordewick Bray. And to bring in our congressionally designated spending, yay! Anyway, Brian, you want to take us through this item, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Byrne, Transportation Engineer. So yeah, this is going to be a great project. This is the Safe Routes to School project that will outline sidewalk gap closures, bicycle enhancements, pavement preservation, and intersection developments along the portion of Musser Street, Telegraph, Thompson, and West 5th Street, which is all in the vicinity of Carson Middle School and Bordewick Bray. This agreement will be utilizing the $1 million from federal earmark funding and requires a 5% local match. Just please note that the draft agreement will be modified to reflect the current city clerk recorder, Scott Hohen. So, yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Does any member have a question?
I have one.
Commissioner Novak?
Is there anything that you anticipate or have heard about doing construction work within a historic area? Sometimes there's additional wrinkles when you're doing any physical construction, even if
At
you're
least
just
you
doing.
didn't ask about a turtle. So you're looking for historic this time, okay? Any
Yeah,
further?
I think we, in the preliminary discussions of the kind of the environmental stuff, that we didn't have any concerns right now, given the location of these limits of this project.
I will add on to what Brian indicated is that being a federally funded project, it'll go through the normal NDOT Federal Highways and State Historic Preservation Office Section 106 compliance of the Historic Preservation Act. So we'll be following all of those guidelines, and there could be additional coordination with the city's Historic Resource Commission, although a lot of this is flat work. In other words, it's horizontal, there's not a vertical element to this project, but it's part of the process.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion. Commissioner Novak is ready.
I move to accept this item as presented, move ahead with the contract.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. Okay, we're now, let me get there. Item 6, which is our non-action items. Mr. Martinovich, do we have a report?
I do. I'd like to highlight a few things, but the first thing I'd like to ask is if Dan could come up to give us a little summary of the storm events that we've had over the past couple of weeks. I want to acknowledge our street operations crews who have been doing around-the-clock shifts for multiple days now. But Dan, if there was anything you wanted to highlight, not to put you on the spot, about some of the recent storms.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Chris. Dan Stuckey, Deputy Public Works Director, for the record. I'll try to be quick because we're trying to beat the storm, right? So I won't talk too much about the storms. But yeah, just a little recap. We've been calling this the New Year's Eve storm. That's what we initially called it when it was on New Year's Eve, but it's been multiple storms that are still happening, 11 days later. We obviously the atmospheric river, I mean, you guys read this on the news all the time, but it really around New Year's Eve was really concerning for us because we had a huge snowpack in December. And then of course, all these historical flooding events that you've had in this area are all the warm atmospheric river coming, falling on the large snowpack and causing a lot of issues, right? Not only on the creeks, but also in the urban area. So we were really concerned about that. Just in preparation for that, we started to do 12-hour day-night shifts a couple days or a day before the event happened. And what they're doing during that time is primarily unclogging inlets, making sure culverts are going to flow well, making sure ditches are clear of debris. So that's kind of what they did. Those first couple parts, we're also getting sandbags ready, not only for our crews to use, but also load up the sandbag site so the public could get in there and do that. The storm hit. It rained really hard. I think we got 4 inches over a day and a half, I want to say, 2 days maybe. Our channels were flowing full. Our basins were very full. Our stormwater system was very full. We knew at some point it could have turned to snow. We just didn't know the timing on that. And I think actually, as bad as the snow got, it was probably a good thing for the city because we were pretty full capacity with our storm drain system. The good news I want to report on our storm drain system is we've done a number, and I know the mayor and Supervisor Schutte know this, but we've done a number of stormwater investments over the last 5 years. I know Ms. Maloney's familiar with that as well. And it was great because sometimes those investments, you'd love to see them work like they were intended to work. And oftentimes in the past, we've had to have a crew member stand at those locations and watch it rather than being out and doing things. Pretty much all of those areas performed really, really well. So that was very comforting news. We did a lot, obviously, with the South Carson Street project, but also other places around the city. So that was great. Switched to snow, New Year's Eve, terrible, event, a lot of snow, power outages caused a lot of problems. Many of you probably experienced them. So we are dealing with that. But like I said, it might have been a good thing in a lot of ways. So then we switched to snowplow operations. We've kind of been back and forth between snowplow operations and flooding the last week and a half. We typically for snowplows, and I think this board knows this, but we have priority 1 streets, priority 2 streets, and then the rest of the streets are streets sometimes we don't ever get to plowing just because oftentimes the event's not great enough that it melts off by the time we get around to it. So in this event, we did the priority 1, we did the priority 2, even multiple times we did those streets. And we actually were able to get to the priority 3 partly because we were worried about more snow coming in, more events that we felt like we just needed to clear it out. So we actually hired some private contractor help. And I think we got to pretty much every priority 3 street or every street in Carson City at some point. So that was good. And so yeah, I think overall we weathered it pretty well. There were some challenges, but the issue is we're not done, right? So we're going to have some storms this weekend. We're expecting those to be mostly just snow events, just kind of typical snow events that we usually see, not the mega ones that we've seen recently. And then the kind of concerning news is there's supposedly another atmospheric river forming in the Pacific right now, and they're just not sure exactly where it's going to align, but we'll be monitoring that in the future and adapt as necessary. But it's been a long couple weeks for everybody, including the residents. So it's good for the snowpack though, and our drought and all that. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much.
A couple of other items I wanted to note. On February 7th, we'll be having a public meeting for the East William Street Complete Streets project. That'll be February 7th, 5 o'clock at the Carson City Sheriff's Office. Anticipate that item being brought to this board at the 60% design in March. So look for that tentatively. Jack Fairs, we've been operating with fairs for Jump Around Carson for a couple of weeks now. It's been going relatively well. We've gotten a lot of calls. We've had some good sales through the contactless fare payment system. My understanding, talking with our vendor for that, is we've had first couple of weeks over $1,000 in contactless purchases, which is good. It shows there's use and buy-in on that. So we're going to continue to support and push that out across our Jack network. Speaking of Jack, I know Mike Jacobs is back here. I want to commend him for the work keeping our transit system operating. He and Alex have been tag teaming and making sure we can get our buses out of the yard and get people into the bus shelters and things like that. So I appreciate them keeping that service going for those citizens who really depend on that. So thank you guys. Staff are also a couple of items for next month. We're working on road mileage certification. It's our annual road mileage certification to the RTC. So look for that next month in February. And anticipate also a materials testing contract for our Colorado Street project. We'll be bringing that to this board for approval. So that's my summary for tonight. Thank you.
We'll move on to agenda item 6B. You're gonna get, who's gonna work on, Brian, the project status report?
Brian, are you ready for 6B? Good. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Byrne, Transportation Engineer. All right, we'll jump into this. First on the list is the multi-use path for the Edmond Sports Complex. This has been completed and submitted our 100% plans to NDOT for final review. We'll proceed once we get to NDOT approval, and construction is anticipated in spring of '23.
This is great. It's been a long, this one's been a long haul.
Yes.
So I'm happy to see this one coming to its bid. Yay.
Kings Canyon Trailhead improvements. This construction is complete and the city has accepted the project. No additional costs are associated with the federal FLAP grant are anticipated, and the city will monitor revegetation through the summer. So this project will be removed from the report.
And this is the one that really did help us in the flood. This one held, like you said, this is where we used to have people standing across the street watching the water flowing. So this really turned out, I think, to be a very advantageous project, not only for the trail system and access to public lands, but also helped us tremendously. And yeah, this one was just a major win for everyone, and staff did a great job working with Central Federal Lands on this. So happy to see that worked.
Yes. Next is Roop Street. And we discussed this project earlier, so that was awarded for construction. That will be slated to begin here as the weather permits. District 2 Long Street project. This project is complete and is being closed out, and this project will be removed from the project status report.
Is this the final dollar? So we came in under budget?
Yes.
So there's no holdback for a final contract payment?
Yep,
This is
those are
it?
the final numbers.
Oh, yay. We need it, I'm gonna bet. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question on that one?
Yes.
Super jazzed how under budget this
Yeah.
project was. Do you know, or can you tell us, even if it's high level, how are the funds redistributed across the different funding?
Yeah, so I got some preliminary numbers on that. So most of it will be going back to the RT fund and the water fund. The reason behind, I guess, kind of a higher refund or surplus on that was of the types of bid alternatives that were selected through it. So the combination of those bid alts kind of just played with the numbers a little differently, so.
That's great.
Does that answer your question? Yeah. Next is the Robinson Area Sewer Replacement Project. The contractor and city are still coordinating on punch list items, so this will still be continuing. The Colorado Street CDBG pavement project. So the project has been awarded and the pre-construction meeting actually occurred today. So that they'll be beginning construction soon. The District 3 East 5th Street reconstruction project. This project is working on the 60% designs for the roundabout and other portions of the project, and staff are still working on getting going on the noise study that's going to be required. And the final design of this will be expected in July of 2023.
Can I ask a question on this one too?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to get back up to speed with all these projects. On the comment on the noise study, was that something that was budgeted for? And how's that all going?
It wasn't a specific line item in the budget, but we did budget environmental, review. So it was kind of informally included in the budget.
We're just kicking it off.
I guess I'll
Part,
m-
right, the noise part.
just make the comment, and maybe some of this is my fault. The scope of this project it's really complex. And so if there are opportunities or if there are, for discussion as the design moves forward, if staff are looking at how to fund all of this and there are so many pieces and we're fitting so many things into one bucket and you need help or guidance on trade-offs, just encourage you to use this board for that.
No, absolutely. I think we'll be able to shed a little bit more light on that once the 60% design is kind of complete and we kind of see where things are landing.
It's helpful the last project gave us some money in case. Let's hope not, but just in case, yeah. Okay.
Next is the District 4 Silver Sage Drive Pavement Preservation Project. This project is complete and is being closed out and will be removed from the project status report. The East William Complete Street Project, the consultant has developed and submitted the 60% design plans, NEPA documents, and technical studies for the city to review. The city is, like Chris mentioned earlier, is planning a public meeting, I think in late January, early February. And then we'll present the 60% design plans to the RAC, RTC, and Board of Supervisors in February.
That'll be March for clarification purposes. The March meeting will be the 60% design. The public meeting is scheduled for February 7th, just to clarify.
Thanks.
That's very late information, so.
The DMV Multi-Use Path Project, the project is continuing with the development of 60% design plans and is expected to be completed in the summer of '23 with construction outlined for spring, summer of '24. The Appian Way Traffic Signal and Intersection Improvement Project, this consultant is scheduled to submit the 90% plans end of January for review, and coordination is still continuing with NDOT for the subsurface utility investigation. We're expected to see the design completed sometime in the spring this year.
Brian, on that one?
Yeah.
Are we still considering that fourth leg of
Yep.
the intersect? Is that going to be covered under this, or depending on how it goes?
I think it's going
When
to come
might that happen?
when it's come down to the timing of exactly how that's going to unfold, but we're in preparation of adding that fourth leg with this design. We have the Desatoya ADA Improvement CDBG project. We've completed the 90% design plans, and we're expected to complete that here early in 2023 with bidding going on next month. We have the District 5 Medical Parkway Preservation Project. We just wrapped up final design on that, and we're looking to get that out next month to bid. And last, we have the District 5 Mountain Street Preservation Project. We just got done with the 90% design plans, looking to wrap those up here soon and also put that out to bid in February.
Oh, can I just ask? So this will coordinate or not be counterintuitive to the other work we're doing on Bray Middle School or something for the safe routes to school?
Yeah, it doesn't overlap.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, none of the parts overlap. Okay, because I'm like,
Yep.
uh-oh, same school area. Let's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
okay.
question.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on this?
Chris, is
Commissioner
there any
Noguera?
update on any other discretionary funding applications, or are you guys looking to go after any new pots of money that might have been made available?
Regarding the discretionary funding, I mean, we've received the Safe Routes to School funding. That was a fiscal '22 congressionally designated directed spending. We did receive recently our fiscal year '23 congressionally designated spending for the Appian Way intersection. That was included in the project status report that Brian just covered. I haven't heard of anything other opportunities for other congressionally designated spending. RTC is always working closely with CAMPO to identify other federal funding sources such as transportation alternatives and things like that. And as those opportunities come up, we'll certainly bring them to the board.
Thanks.
And to my knowledge, I'll put my other hat on. I haven't had any requests that we can submit new applications for them. I'm not sure the new Congress is going to allow the earmarks. So if it opens, I promise I'll be asking. I haven't had any problem asking, and I've been very happy with the number of them that we've received. So, but as of now, they haven't opened any window for us to submit. I guess that's the better way to say it. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, things to share with each other, anything of that nature?
A huge
Very
thank you to street
much.
staff. Yes.
Please pass it on to them that we recognize, or I will say, of course, we're still getting calls for people asking for help, which are generally on your tier level 3. They'd like another pass. They got it on that initial storm, but this one got them too. I promise you, anyone that's listening, we're doing the best we can, and when we hear of this, we put it out there. We let Justin Tierney know, oops, if you can get to this street, there's people that are stranded, can't get out. Like you said, we're really, really trying hard to keep up with all of that. And I definitely want to go on the record to say, how dare you two leave us, because we were your best employer ever. Just thought I'd mention that. You're going to miss us greatly. Do you guys live in Reno? I knew it. I knew, a little extra enticement there, so you didn't have to travel to Carson. And I'm going to guess this weather helped you in your decision, right? We're staying in Reno, but anyway, thank you so much. And which Scott? Oh, just to say, yes, in case you heard earlier today that we were fixing one of our contracts to change out Aubrey's name. Scott Hohen, our new clerk, is here with us, and so thank you for attending tonight and learning a little bit about this one. And he's gonna go, I'm never coming back. No, but thank you so much and welcome. Welcome. Is there any other board discussion or activity? No? Thank you so very much. Then we'll move on to our final public comment period. Is there any final public comment? Seeing none, we are adjourned, and everybody be safe.